Hello everyone, Edain here, and I am back. Yes, I have been gone for a while. I do apologise. A lot has happened in my personal life recently. I got ill. Some of my family members have been ill for the last few weeks, and I've just been sorting through everything like that, as well as doing work. It's been a very stressful last few weeks, unfortunately. But I'm back, and we're now doing the end of the year series, the history of the Edain mod, specifically 4.0 to 4.5.5, I think we're at now. Anyway, so everything you need to know about Edain. In the very beginning, back in 4.0, when things were simple and nothing really mattered because it was all a bit of fun, there was only 4 factions. We had Gondor, Rohan, Isengard, and Mordor. And I must say, out of all these factions, the only faction that they actually all feel exactly the same. Rohan, I'd say, has been given the biggest improvement. Isengard has received next to no change, and Mordor is always as good as it's going to be. But anyway, we're going to go into this, not playing as anyone, because I just want to talk about everything that's happened with the Edain mod since its inception to where we are now. And I'd say Gondor is a good faction to talk everything through with that, because I'd say they've had a change they've had the most changes over the course of the entire Edain mod's history, and they are one of the 4 main factions. So, back in 4.0, a lot was different. Firstly, we're going to go over resource buildings, and I'm going to get a few of them just so we can get the economy rolling, and we can talk about everything else that has changed in that time. So, first thing you might notice when we come into here, we have 2 buttons we originally did not have on the Citadel. That's because in 4.5 patch, which is like the major patch, I'm going to keep naming it different things. I'm going to call it the siege patch, I'm going to call it the economy patch, I'm going to call it the power patch. It all happened at the same time. But basically, in the siege patch updates, the Enact Bastion was given to every Citadel for every faction, whether it's in a camp or castle. All buildings, wall catapults in the basis, and castle gates, so everything gets 50% armor against siege engines and elemental damage. So that means like Balrogs, which we don't have yet, dragons, which we don't have yet. Basically anything that does something that's not physical damage, but also all siege damage. So that's a big thing. Secondly, we have the expanded storeroom, which I did not realise that price has decreased. Is that because of this? Yep, lowers the cost of expanded storerooms. That's something I did not actually know. So, expanded storerooms, normally it's 500 resources and increases your command points by 200. Now, originally, this was implemented into your resource structures. And we'll go into that shortly. We're just currently starting with the Citadel. So, by buying one of these, you have a set amount of time before it finally goes round. You start with 1,000 and you can get 5 of these expanded storerooms if you want to. And after you get even 1, your command points will be permanently increased by 200. If an opponent destroys your Citadel, that will not change. Now, originally, until 4.5, when this patch came into rolled in, you had to buy an upgrade for one of your resource structures to give them a improved pantry, which would be either 120 command points or 240 command points, depending on which level you went for. But now you have a permanent increase. It's a one-time cost. You don't have to worry about expanding your resources in a different way. The resources are always built the same way. We're going to get this as well, just to talk about that. And a barracks and an archery range. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. So expanded storerooms, I think, is one of the better changes that has been done to the Edain mod since it came out. But also now we're going to talk about our resource structures. So I bought 5 of them. Most resource structures have a cost reduction implemented into them. For example, the blacksmith reduces the cost of upgrades by a certain amount depending on how many you have. That's been something that's existed since BFME1. But some new unique ones. Reduces the cost of expanded storerooms, elite and heroic units. Before, that kind of thing never existed until Edain. Well, obviously there was the well discount, but that doesn't count. But then we come to the main thing that happens with resource structures. Normally in Battlefield of 1 and 2, and Rise of the Witch King, over time, your building would accrue veterancy, and it would level up. And then it'll give you more resources, more command points, etc, etc. But now, from a specific building which is almost integral to your performance as a faction, you have the economy upgrades. So for Gondor, it's the marketplace. Rohan, it's your armory. The dwarves, it's your blacksmith or armory, whichever one it's called, and so on and so on and so on. Basically, your economy improving building, or just improvement building in general, will give you more options for money. And you have this in the form of workers' tools, forge workers' tools, settlers' tools, and forge settlers' tools. This is different for some factions, but you get the main gist of you have to buy this upgrade and then this upgrade. This first upgrade will upgrade all of these structures to tier 1. That's for the workers' tools. Workers' tools, yeah, improve economy production by 25% and more hit points for structures in the settlements. Sorry, not in the settlements, in a camp, castle, or outpost. The settlers' tools is for structures on settlements. Also increases their build costs by 100. So basically, if I was to go out here, go to this settlement, we could build a level 1 resource structure, either a farm or a ranger tent, or for whatever faction you're playing as. But when you get the settlers tools, that will then become a automatic level 2. Now, before this update was made, it would always come back at level 1, and you'd have to build up from the very beginning again. So holding these settlements was a very important part of the Edain mod. But that has fortunately changed. So we'll go to this ranger tent here and just build that. So just so we can prove the point of, once you build the settlers tools, that building will become level 2. But now for some factions, to get the workers, the forged tools, you need to get an extra step. For like Rohan, you need to upgrade your armory. For Angmar, you have to upgrade your Darkheim Forge using your guys. Okay, we won't bother with that then. We'll just keep talking. So yeah, now we've got the forged workers tool. The workers tools. Our buildings are now level 2, and they make us more resources in the process. An extra 25%. So that's 35 per structure. You might be thinking, that's really strong. Isn't it always important to go for those forged workers and settlers tools and just instantly win with massive economy? No, you cannot. The Edain mod thought of that and came up with a solution. The supply routes, or I call them the supply lines because I play Warhammer, but let's not go into that. So, as you build more economy structures, their individual production becomes less efficient. So currently we have 6 resource structures, so our complete economy production is actually reduced by 10%. We need to get up, if we want to get the most out of having that 10% less production, we need to have a total of 10 resource structures. Now that could be difficult to get with certain factions. So normally when I'm playing, and I'm sure you've seen, I get 5 resource structures and that's it. I start with 5, I build up my economy that using the tools, just so I don't have to lose any money in the process, and I've got them safe and secure around my fortress or in my fortress, and then you can just carry on from there. Some people, like some factions in particular, don't actually have many buildings with supply routes, or even have buildings without the need of supply routes, such as the Dwarves or Isengard with lumber mills, or Lothlorien for most of their buildings. So some factions, you don't have to worry so much about the supply routes, but you actually kind of, as much as it is bad to have that loss in economy, it is actually so negligible. You don't actually you don't even notice that resource production decrease by having just one more resource structure sometimes. Some factions are more affected by it when they have less potential for resource growth, such as Isengard. If Isengard gets 6 resource structures to begin with, that could actually cut them off from their important key point in the game to get that extra increase. But anyway, I've talked enough about that now. Resource structures in general, if you want to make the most of them, make sure you keep them at their levels. Of course, the building that you actually get the resource upgrades too can also have extra upgrades, like the Grand Harvest for Gondor, increase the resource structure of all farms by 30%. Now, if we were going back to BFME 1 and 2 days, these townhouses wouldn't exist and there would be farms instead. So if you could build a whole area of farms in your base and increase their production by 30%, that would be ridiculously good. That's actually what used to happen with the increased taxes, and then they changed it so its effect would affect regular troops as well, which is a nice thing. I do like that. I do like that was a nice change. And you can see here the ranger tent as well. It was actually made into a resource structure. I'm going to talk more about this in the Gondor history video. But for the Athelian Rangers, originally their building was a straight up, you can just get them straight away and they would be decreased in cost by the townhouses. Now they've made this a resource structure and it actually reduced the cost of the composite bows. It used to actually reduce the cost of the rangers, where you could actually recruit. So you could actually get so many rangers. It was such a fun time. You can still do that and it is really fun. But now they're also a resource building, so watch out for those supply lines because you might be buying off more than you can chew. So, next thing, before I continue rambling. Building upgrades, this has always been the same. I think every faction has a unique way of upgrading their buildings. Gondor is quite simple. You've got a building, starts off at level 1. You want to upgrade to level 2, you've got to pay the money for it. If the building gets destroyed, you've got to build it back up from level 1. Some other factions have different rules to this. For example, the dwarves, their workers' tools also affect their production buildings as well. So they would actually have a level 3 barracks straight away instead of having to build it back up to level 3 to get your better troops. And I'm just going to go back off that because I'm not going to talk about that yet. But next thing are heroes. So you can see here we have 3 heroes at our citadel. Now, originally, back in 4.0, again, up to 4.4, before the 4.5 patch, all heroes existed in the Citadel, with 1 or 2 exceptions for, like, Imrahil for the Border Stronghold. But now, a lot of our heroes have been moved to different military buildings. So we've got Baragon and Boromir here for our barracks. We've got our archery range, we've got Faramir, and you can also get rangers from the archery range. Now, I don't believe that was a thing before 4.5. Don't be afraid to quote me on that. I might be wrong. Then also you may be thinking, where's Aragorn? Surely he'd be in the barracks as well. Well, some buildings, I'm actually going to get rid of this ranger tent now, just to show off what I mean, that they literally can put heroes anywhere. Like with Elrond. The best hero of Imladris, he is put in your most essential building, the library. And it makes sense for him to be in there. But for most other factions, your faction leader is in the Citadel. Or your best faction. So in this case would be Gandalf. Or, as I always more specifically called, the ring hero. If you want to find your ring hero, you'll more than likely find it in the Citadel. Semi-ring heroes don't count. Sorry, Boromir. In the signal fire here, it doesn't actually say, but upon the signal fire, you will actually get access to Aragorn. And that's the same for Theodred. He is from a settlement building himself as well. And then there's Wulfgar, who's always been from a settlement building for Isengard. And so on and so on and so on. So then, how does this make things more difficult for certain factions? Well, certain factions like Angmar, for example, who are very hero-centric. They've got characters like Mornemarth. They've got Zafragor that could do massive amounts of damage. And all you need to do was just go to the Citadel, click his icon, and then you've got him. Now, to get characters like Zafragor, you need to build an outpost, pick the Tower of Sorcery version, and then you can recruit him from only that outpost. So that makes your choice. That makes some choices for you in how you build your fortress. Sometimes you're going to want that Baragon, or you're going to want that Boromir. But if you don't build the barracks to get either of them, you're not going to get either of them. And same with Faramir. Originally, Faramir you could get from a ranger tent, so you didn't have to build an archery range. Now, if you want Faramir, you have to build the archery range. You don't have a choice. Although, saying that, having a level 3 archery range is good because you can then get fire arrows for your rangers, which are a good choice. But that goes for every single faction. Glouffendel, a hero I normally badmouth when I'm playing as Arnor, is actually really good in Imladris, but to get him you need the green pasture, which I typically don't build in Imladris because every build slot is very important in that faction. So I would build an outpost and then get Glouffendel from there. But to do that you have to change your strategy in a way. Before they never had to do that. And it is so interesting how that little change can change the entire meta for playing as AI against other players. I really have enjoyed these small changes, and it goes back to a thing that existed back in Edain 3.8. This was originally an Edain 3.8 thing, not a Edain 4.0 thing. Okay, so we talked about the economy, how that's changed. We've talked about how heroes have been moved to different locations and how different buildings require different upgrades depending on the faction. Final thing to talk about for this video is the powers. Now, if you've never played Edain before or ever even heard of the Edain mod, if you just stumbled upon this video and you're wondering what the hell is this man talking about, this power tree is very different to anything you will have ever seen before. Originally, if you're a BFME2 player or an Age of the Ring player, if that's where you found this channel, you'll remember the power tree being 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and again 1, 2, 3, and then finally 1, 2, your 2 elite powers. Everything has changed in the Edain mod. You have 5 powers on this side of the tree, you have 5 on this side of the tree, and then finally you have the central power. Now, the central power is kind of like the big thing of the faction. It's very, it relates a lot to the lore and also just to how you should play as the faction. For Gondor, and technically also Arnor, it is the formations of Gondor/Arnor. So basically your troops get damage and armor when they're in their toggled specialization formations. That means if I was to get 5 power points and then get that power, if I was to use block formation, I'd not just get 20 armor, I'd get 20 extra armor on top of that and 20 damage. So if you're against like a giant horde of orcs that are coming across this area, put these soldiers of Gondor here, put them in shield wall formation, not only will they hold the line for practically forever, but they could take half of that army of orcs with them. It's that little extra detail can actually mean a big thing. Because it slows down enemy attack. It gives you more time to attack. And then you can go around to other things. Obviously, I normally kind of badmouth this power because it is... But I do enjoy it. This power is actually good if you want to invest in it. But on top of the main central power, you have the defensive tree and the aggressive tree. So what makes the difference between aggressive and defensive? Well, for the defensive powers, you typically have base protecting abilities. You have summons that are indicative to having a structure to defend them on, or is a delayed summon, or is a improvement to a structure, like with Angmar or Imladris. Or maybe it's just some big base protecting ability, or a whole map vision, for example, for Lothlorien. And then the aggressive side of the tree is boosting your troops, giving them more power, dealing damage to structures, bringing out aggressive summons that can do lots of damage, or just having something that can kill heroes really quickly, like with the Grey Company. And then obviously the unfulfilled Army of the Dead. We all know it as one of the most powerful abilities in the game, for its ability to ignore damage from most sources and then just cleave through everything. If you've seen my 2-hour-long video as playing as the dwarves, we face at least 5 armies of the dead. I might be over exaggerating that, but whatever. The army of the dead is a big problem when you're worried, when you need to think about it, and being on the aggressive side of the tree makes it a dangerous power. But also Rohan Answers, if you allow that to build up to its potential, not only can it just sweep an entire army off the board, It can protect your base. It could be used to attack an enemy base, because it does last for a while. And yeah, as it says here, the more time Rohan has to prepare, the more troops and heroes will come. And I think after you wait a whole minute, you then get like 6 Rohirrim units, along with Elfhelm and Grimbold, which is 2 more 4 Rohirrim units, along with all of the good heroes of Rohan. Eomer, Eowyn, Theoden. So you've got a hero killer, you've got scavenger, you've got... You haven't got the OP inspiring charge, rallying cry and all that. But you've got some good powers. And then obviously, you see here we've got Gandalf the White. Is more of a defensive power. It makes Gandalf stronger. And yeah, that's basically everything you need to know about the power tree. You have defense, attack, and your main central power that you normally should go for as a faction. And that is everything about Edain, basically. Everything in a nutshell was changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's been a long journey, and I have loved going through it every single bit. But that's only the main, like, key features. If you want to see more on, like, the history of Gondor, how they've changed throughout their history through Edain, or Isengard, or Mordor, or any of the factions, then I will be posting regularly every single video. Or if you're watching this live right now, you're about to see everything unfold. So I hope you're ready for it. And if you're on YouTube,